When you think of China's ancient wonders, the Great Wall immediately comes to mind. But what if I told you there's another engineering marvel that did more to shape Chinese civilization? A waterway so vital, it was the true artery of the empire. The Great Wall was built to keep people out, a defensive barrier against northern invaders. But the Grand Canal was built to bring people together. It connected China's disparate regions into a single, functioning organism. Stretching over 1,100 miles from Beijing to Hangzhou, the Grand Canal is the world's longest artificial waterway. Its construction began in the 5th century BCE, with major expansions under the Sui dynasty around 600 CE. While the Great Wall protected China's borders, the Grand Canal fed its people. It transported grain from the fertile Yangtze Delta to feed the capital and northern armies. Without this food supply, the empire would have starved. The canal wasn't just about survival, it created prosperity. It became China's economic superhighway, moving goods, people, and ideas across the empire. Trade flourished in ways the wall could never facilitate. Engineering the canal was a monumental challenge. Builders had to overcome varying elevations, create sophisticated lock systems, and manage water flow across different river basins. Their solutions were centuries ahead of their time. The canal unified China culturally as well as economically. It allowed the exchange of dialects, customs, and technologies between North and South. This cultural blending helped create a cohesive Chinese identity. Emperors understood the canal's importance. While they maintained the Great Wall, they invested far more resources in the canal system. It was the key to controlling and administering their vast territory. The canal enabled China's bureaucracy to function. Officials could travel quickly between provinces, tax grain could be collected efficiently, and imperial decrees could reach distant regions. It was the information highway of its day. During times of famine or drought, the canal became a lifeline. It could redirect food supplies to affected areas, preventing mass starvation and social unrest. The wall offered no such flexibility in crisis. The canal's economic impact was staggering. Cities along its route, like Yangzhou, Suzhou, and Hangzhou, grew into wealthy commercial centers. Their prosperity directly resulted from canal trade. While the Great Wall often failed militarily, invaders frequently breached it. The canal consistently succeeded economically. It provided continuous value for over a millennium, long after many wall sections fell into disrepair. The canal facilitated technological exchange. Innovations in agriculture, manufacturing, and engineering spread rapidly along its length. This cross-pollination of ideas accelerated China's development. It also enabled large-scale population movements. When northern regions faced instability, people could migrate south via the canal. This demographic flexibility helped China survive periods of turmoil. The canal's construction required staggering human effort. Millions of workers labored for generations, with many losing their lives. But this sacrifice created an infrastructure that served hundreds of millions. Unlike the wall, which primarily served military purposes, the canal served everyone, from emperors to merchants to peasants. It was truly a public works project that benefited all levels of society. The canal adapted to changing times. While the Great Wall became obsolete with modern warfare, the canal evolved, incorporating new technologies and continuing to serve China's economy into the industrial era. It created a national market centuries before such concepts existed elsewhere. Goods from one end of China could reach the other efficiently, creating economic integration that rivaled modern nations. The canal also had strategic military value. It could transport troops and supplies rapidly across the empire, giving Chinese rulers mobile defense capabilities that static walls couldn't provide. Environmental engineering was crucial. Builders had to manage water resources across entire river basins, creating sophisticated systems that balanced irrigation, flood control, and transportation needs. The canal fostered artistic and literary culture. Poets wrote about its beauty, painters captured its scenes, and travelers documented their journeys. It became woven into China's cultural fabric. While the Great Wall symbolized separation, us versus them, the Grand Canal symbolized connection. It represented the Chinese ideal of unity and harmony between different regions and peoples. The canal's decline came with railroads and modern transportation, but its historical impact remains undeniable. Sections are still in use today, and UNESCO has recognized it as a World Heritage Site. Compare the costs. While both projects required immense resources, the canal provided continuous economic returns for centuries. The wall's value was more intermittent and situational. The canal enabled China's population growth. By ensuring reliable food distribution, it supported larger populations than would otherwise have been possible. This demographic strength became China's enduring advantage. It also facilitated tax collection and governance. The centralized grain tribute system via the canal gave emperors financial control over distant provinces, strengthening the state's authority. The canal's legacy lives in modern China's infrastructure projects. The same principles of connectivity and economic integration guide today's high-speed rail networks and expressway systems. While the Great Wall captures imagination as a physical barrier, the Grand Canal represents something deeper: the Chinese genius for creating systems that sustain civilization. It was infrastructure as civilization building. The canal also had diplomatic importance. Foreign envoys traveled it to reach the capital, experiencing China's prosperity firsthand. It served as a showcase of imperial power and sophistication. Regional specialization developed along the canal. Different areas could focus on what they did best, whether silk production, grain farming, or manufacturing, knowing they could trade efficiently with other regions. The canal required continuous maintenance and improvement across dynasties. Each generation added to this collective project, creating a living infrastructure that evolved with Chinese society. It also had environmental costs. Canals altered ecosystems, diverted rivers, and sometimes caused flooding. But Chinese engineers developed sustainable practices that minimized damage over centuries. The canal created social mobility. Ambitious individuals could travel to seek opportunities, students could reach academies, and artists could find patrons. It was a pathway to better lives. While the Great Wall represents China's defensive mindset, the Grand Canal represents its constructive capacity. One was about fear of outsiders, the other about confidence in internal development. The canal's importance becomes clear when we consider alternatives. Without it, China might have remained divided into separate regional economies, never achieving its historical scale and influence. It also enabled cultural preservation. When northern capitals were threatened, treasures and knowledge could be moved south via the canal, saving China's cultural heritage during invasions. The canal created what economists call agglomeration effects. By concentrating economic activity along its route, it generated innovation and productivity gains that spread throughout society. While the Great Wall is celebrated in legend and popular culture, the Grand Canal operated in practical silence, moving goods, feeding cities, and unifying a civilization day after day for over 1,000 years. Today, as China builds new Silk Roads and global infrastructure, it follows the same logic as the Grand Canal. Connection creates prosperity. This ancient waterway established patterns that still guide Chinese development. So which was more important? The wall protected China's body, but the canal nourished its soul. One was a shield against external threats. The other was the circulatory system that gave life to an entire civilization. The Grand Canal reminds us that true greatness isn't always about dramatic defenses, but often about quiet connections. It was the humble waterway, not the mighty wall, that truly made China China.